there. My name is Mallory Anderson Macy, and I am a board certified behavior analyst, mindfulness expert, author, mom, and I am here to talk to you about something that is very near and dear to my heart, which is having a kiddo with special needs and parenting them through therapy. It's a really challenging thing, I know, because my daughter was born with a neurological condition, and I've also, even before I had kids at all, spent a lot of time with parents just like you whose kiddos need more help than they can give all by themselves, an expertise that we are not all given at the beginning of our parenting journey. And for me and for the parents that I've worked with, having mindfulness strategies at the beginning of the therapeutic experience helps your kiddo to be able to work into different levels of therapy. And there's only so much that can happen, but my goal is to support you through that process, because it is my firm belief that when parents are supported, their children thrive. And there's a lot of evidence to support that, but some of the strategies aren't necessarily intuitive. That's why I wrote a book called 7 Days to Clarity, A Parent's Guide to Getting the Most from ABA Therapy, as a resource. And this is a journaling workbook. There's actual spaces for you to write in and to do the activities. And as someone who has experienced mindfulness changing their life, and as a parent, my mental capacity helps to influence that of my children. And it's allowed me to step into places that were really scary for me to step into within therapy. So that way I could get really clear about what I needed, what resources I needed, and how I communicated with my support team, so that, and what decisions we were going to make based on all of that, for the best health of my daughter. And it took a lot more inner work to get me to a place where I could feel comfortable and confident in some of those decisions. And in the whole process of that, also move towards the life that I wanted to live, even though some of this stuff is really hard. So I'm going to go ahead and do a video series for you. There's going to be 7 videos, and it roughly follows the outline of my book. If you want and you haven't yet, you can go ahead and grab your copy on Amazon. I'll go ahead and link it in each one of these videos. But even if you don't get a copy of this book, I'm going to give you information in these videos that can get you started without any, you don't have to purchase anything, right? Like, these will just be on YouTube and you can grab them at any time. And my hope is that this will help you to start creating a sustainable relationship with therapy, and also with your day-to-day life, and being able to start taking that, you also, as a part of this situation, into consideration, because I know from personal experience, and as someone who's helped other people, that it does make a world of difference. So day 1 in my book is all about clarity. It's about getting clear on what it is that you want and where you're at now, so that we can start making moves. Because you're going to hear me say over and over and over again that we're going to be doing some stuff, and we're going to be doing some thinking, and always it's going to be compared against your goals and your values. And so that's why day 1, we're going to really clearly establish that. But before we hop into that, we're going to talk a little bit about the concept of life balance. Sometimes parents or people in general have this idea that balance is a one and done thing. It's something that you achieve or you don't achieve. And when we have that as a standard, it's unachievable because our lives and our goals are dynamic. They're always growing, they're always stretching, they're always accommodating, and our priorities are always shifting. And when we meet goals, we create new ones. And so there's never a static place for life balance to exist in. But that doesn't mean we can't continue to work towards balancing, because we're going to be doing it anyway. The things that happen and take up space from our lives will always happen that way, whether we do it on purpose or reactionary and just let it happen. And so my goal for this is to be able to notice what your priorities are, and be able to make choices in service of your vision, which is what I'm gonna say over and over and over again, to purposefully create that vision rather than react to things in our life. And so in order to do that, we have to start getting an idea of what life balance is going to look like for us. I use a 12 areas of life model. You can add or you can subtract, whichever things you want to. But what I'd like you to do now is grab a piece of paper or a secondary device. If you're watching this on your phone, maybe you have your laptop nearby or vice versa. Or just grab a piece of paper. If you have my book, this is going to be an exercise that you can just write straight in the book. But what I want you to do is create a list of 1 to 12 and fill these words in. Number 1, family. These are all going to be areas of life. Number 2, friends. Number 3, parenting. Number 4, romance. Number 5, personal development. Number 6, fun and recreation. Number 7, mental and physical health. And I mean, write this down because I'm going to have you do an activity here really quick. Number 8, community and society. 9, career. 10, finances. 11, environment. And 12, spirituality. Now that we've kind of identified the 12 areas of life that most people have, and that there is a large impact of each one of those things on your life on average, I want you to first go down the line and use this 1 to 10 scale of how important each one of those things is to you. And the key word is there is important to you, not what you think should be important, but what is important. 1 being low or not important at all, and 10 being most important. And I want you to rate each one of those going down the line. And you can go ahead and pause if you need to. But when you're done and you've rated those, I'm going to have you go back through and write a second number next to it, right? And I want you to put how much time and effort each one of those areas is getting, and go all the way down the line. Pause if you need to. And when you have finished this little exercise, I want you to notice how the numbers match up. If it's 2 or more, that area of life, like difference between importance and time and effort, that area of life might be a little bit out of balance. And I'm going to go ahead and say that even if it's a 10 and a 10, right? You're giving 10 out of 10 effort and time, and it's still a number 10 important, it still might be a little bit out of balance, because anything that's getting all of our attention is probably preventing us from being able to experience the other parts of ourselves that are authentic to our expression and to the image of the life that we want to live in our perfect reality. So now that you've got a little bit of looking there, I want you to notice what it is that's standing out to you as out of balance, and where are the parts where you're getting tons of effort and where are the parts that you're not putting as much effort in. I'm going to go ahead and guess that may be fun and recreation or personal development, or maybe even your own health, mental or physical, maybe romance if you have a partner or you desire a partner. Isn't getting a whole lot of attention because you are putting so much effort into parenting or childcare tasks, or your kiddo's development. And if we look at that whole list, there's only really two parts that of your life that include your kids, right? Like parenting and family. And so when we start noticing that that's only a facet of our life, even if it's a really big, important facet, and we start living our whole lives, that's when we create some really interesting change. And counterintuitively, doing this is actually going to help your children in their therapy more than you would think. A lot of the times our intuitive response is to lean in and give all and more and more and more and hyper focus. And sometimes, depending on how we're feeling when we're doing that type of hyper focused attention work, we can create more problems than we solve. And so that's what this is going to be kind of a part. But again, the first day here, we're going to be getting clear on what it is that we want. So the next one that we're going to do is values list. And when I think about values, it's like a compass to your roadmap. Values is how you're going to get to your goals. First, we've already identified the balance component, like where you're at a balance assessment. Now we're going to start making our map. And I'm going to go ahead and put a values list here when I do editing, and maybe you can screenshot that. So go ahead and screenshot this here. And maybe pause this video after I explain, and I want you to go through and narrow this big list of like 200 down to just 10 of your top values. Because the idea is that when everything is important, nothing's important. Nothing gets enough focus or attention to actually make progress. So what we're going to do is narrow down the things that are most important to you. And again, just like the balance assessment, it's not what other people think is important, it's what you think is important, and how we're going to move you toward living a life that embodies those things. Now, you probably already are because they're already important to you, but we're going to try and do so more on purpose. A lot of what can happen is that we can justify pretty much anything as being important as it shows up in our life. And so when we have a values list, it also starts to give us permission to let things go that aren't on the top part of our priority list. That can be really scary, it can be really uncomfortable, but it can also provide focus so that the things that are most important start getting done. So go ahead and pause, screenshot that, and narrow it down to 10. I'd really encourage you to not go over 12. My personal list is 12. I work with 10 with most people, but it's hard. So I'll meet you back here when you have your list of values. All right, now I know that you probably didn't expect me to assign you homework. That values list was also in this book if you wanted to go ahead and get your own copy and do that as well, of course. And then the last part of this video, day 1, is a clarity vision day. And so what I'm going to ask of you in this one is to get that piece of paper back out, because you're going to be taking some notes. And I want you to, we're going to do it a little bit meditation wise, but what I want you to do is start off projecting a little bit into the future, whatever feels like a safe amount of time. So for you, if being able to create your ideal vision of life is something that you don't think is achievable in 6 months, if it's something that you don't think is achievable in a year or 2 or 3, then don't pick a number that doesn't feel safe for you to be able to achieve that goal. But I don't want you to go too much past 3 years, because in parenting, 3 years is a huge amount of time. Kids make progress of course, in different ways, but it's very dynamic and it can happen really quickly. So between 6 months and 3 years, I want you to pick a time that feels safe to achieve it. And I want you, if you can, and if now is not a good time, pause this video and save it for another time. You can see how long the video is going to run for. I want you to take a moment and close your eyes. Take a few deep breaths and start envisioning a perfect day. Starting with your head on your pillow, you're waking up in your morning. And what do you feel first? What do you think? What do you see? And let that flow into the next thing. Notice what isn't there, but then also what replaces it, because the power is in what is there, not what is missing. And what happens next in your day? Maybe you're moving on to breakfast or a grooming routine of your own. For me, my perfect day involves me being up before my kids so that way I can do some of my morning things alone. But maybe that's not true for you. And then keep going in this perfect vision of your day. Keep going to the next thing that you would do, the way that you work, the way that you see your kids, the way that you see your partner or not, how you feel about the things that you're doing in this morning, and what emotions come up for you as you have this perfect day. And really blow by blow, what things are you doing in this day? What things are your kids doing in this day? And if you notice that you're having more thoughts about your kids, reel back and add yourself back into this perfect day, because it's your perfect day. And you, in all of the things that you are, taking into consideration your values, taking into consideration your life balance, all of those facets of life are important. With that in mind, what are the next things that you do as you move into the lunch portion of your day or midday? And the next. And how do those things make you feel? Maybe confident or competent. Maybe safe. Maybe proud. Maybe excited. Remember, this is perfect. If you notice that you dream up something, then you argue with it, let that argument pass for now, or take note of it. We're going for perfect here. And then move into the next part of the day. And then as you move into the dinner time hour, maybe the bedtime routine, how's your day going? What are the last things that you're doing? How do you feel about it? Again, not just what's missing, what things you don't feel, but what things replace that feeling. And as you lay your head back on your pillow in a perfect day, how do you feel? What is your reflection? And when you're done, without rushing, go ahead and open your eyes and write down as many details as you can. And if you don't remember, that's okay. Go back into that mindset, or maybe do this again at another time. I actually do this exercise pretty regularly, about 4 times a year, to try and make sure that I'm still always moving towards my ideal vision. And again, this is really important to the next days that we have coming up here, or the next videos. So definitely take time to write this out. Sometimes for me, this can be like 10 pages worth. If that feels excessive, do whatever detail level makes you feel good, but I would try and set a timer for like 5 minutes and just write for that period of time, or type. Because again, this is going to be really important work to know and to have clarity on. All right, so that was our first day. It was definitely the longest video, but again, this is going to lay the foundation, because now you kind of have an idea of where you're at in your life balance and in each of the areas of life where you're at. You have a values list, so that way we can use it as a roadmap, so that when we start creating this beautiful vision that you've just written down, we can use our values to tell us how to achieve that thing that we're trying to make. Because I think I started saying it earlier and I didn't finish my thought, but the idea that values are like a compass to your map. You can always go west. Right now you could go outside, you could go west. You might have to get in a car or a boat or a train. You might have to get some help, but you can always continue west, and you can reach west and go more west. The same way that, if a value was happiness, you could always find a new way to apply, to use, to embody happiness, right? It's never done and it's never achieved, kind of like we talked about before with that idea of balance. And so when we have these values and we have these goals, we can use that compass of, like, let's say happiness or community, and use that to infuse how we're going to make that beautiful vision that you wrote down happen. So all of these components are super important, and they're going to set us up for success in the upcoming days. And not just you, right? Because when parents are supported in the life that they want to live, they're happy, they're overflowing with what makes them them, that ripples out to your kids and to your kids' therapy. It might be tricky to believe this right now, but it's absolutely true. And it does take practice, and it does take a little bit of effort, a lot of effort, but it is worth it. So I'm gonna go ahead and end, and I'll see you on the day 2 video, which will pop up on the screen somewhere. Okay, bye, see you next time.